Okay, this shiur is dedicated to Nishmat, my grandfather Abraham ben Mazalto. We're doing this week a double parasha. In the parasha, I would concentrate somewhat on Parashat Masay rather than Matot. So when you read this, there is a little bit of a problem, especially with the second pasuk, with the second verse. And it says like this: "Vaychtov Moshe et Motzayim leMasayim al pi Hashem, ve'el leMasayim leMotzayim." And Moshe wrote their starting point and their journeys according to what God told them, and these are the journeys according to their departure point. I mean, I don't know about you, but let's read it again, right? The beginning of the pasuk talks Motzayim leMasayim, their departure point and their journeys, and then the end of the pasuk talks about their journeys according to their departure point, which is completely the opposite. So, when you come to cases like that, you always want to see, what does it really tell me? So first of all, let's try to focus the situation, the topic today, and we'll say that it's really difficult for us to relate to those journeys because many times those places are not known to us exactly where they were. And so therefore, since the Torah is eternal, it comes to tell us or teach us about a journey that is beyond that particular journey, that is something that's going to tell us is eternal, beyond time. And therefore that we could really see this pasuk, this verse, in a different, broader perspective, and to really pay attention that also us, ourselves, are in a certain type of a journey. And this is not necessarily the journey of Bnei. Why, it's so bad you're already leaving? It's not the journey of Bnei Israel per se, but rather the journey of our life, the exit of Egypt, our own personal Egypt. In other words, anything that make us into slaves of our old habits. Egypt is represented by those things. To the promised land, to the land of milk and honey, that open spaces, broadness, and ultimately freedom. From this perspective, you might start understanding what does it mean, Masayim leMotzayim, and we're going to therefore start from the second part. The journey is according to your departure point. Each one of us has a starting point, a place that we start, a source in which we emerge to the world, our nation, our ethnic group, cultural group, our family, and altogether our own past, our own personal past. All these are starting points to our life, to the journey of our life, towards our life. So before you go on a journey, you really need to know where you're coming from. What's your departure point? Who are you? What are you? Where do you belong to? Because it's very difficult to go on a journey not knowing really who you are, what are you about. What is your roots? We were talking about, today in Yeshiva, we're talking about certain groups of people that have absolutely no roots, to the point that they have to kind of revise history and make some kind of like stories about their past. We have to all have roots. And, there are roots that, all of us, we're trying to disconnect from and so on and so forth. And there are people who try to break away from the roots. And most of the time, that effort to break away from your roots, it's quite pathetic and it ends up to be a failure. And if you ask some of the forefathers of secular Zionism that chose this deliberately and out in the open way to disconnect themselves from the history of the Jewish nation in order to create a new identity, which represented by this good-looking Israeli, blonde with his hair flowing like this, and so on and so forth, a secular person that doesn't see himself as a part of his traditional nation and the traditions of his own nation. It failed. It absolutely failed. That experiment to create a new identity that does not get its nutrients from its roots, from its past, was a failure. That experiment was a failure, and that crisis of identity of, like, quote unquote, the nouveau Israelis. That experience. It's quite of a miserable failure. And then on the other hand, there is a tremendous rush towards to the sources, whether it's in culture, whether it's in music, whether it's Israeli culture, whether it's food, and so on and so forth, really represents the urge and the need to connect yourself to something that was greater here from the past in order to grow in the future. And we need to understand that. I sent you guys, some of you guys, that interview with this Israeli guy who was a very left-wing secular Israeli that all of a sudden realized, talking to actually Arabs, terrorists, that realized that he cannot break away from really who he is. And he decided, okay, so what do I do? You can't do it. You can't make it. And of course, in our personal aspect of our lives, a person that wants to look forward to his own future, call it his journey, needs to understand, first of all, that he needs to be able to bravely look in his past, straightforward to the eyes, and to be okay with that. That's who it is. That's what it is. My past is a part of me, as much as the scars that my past had scar me into my life and so on and so forth. It really is a part of me. And it is almost like a treasure that is waiting to be unveiled and to revealed and to be brought into the light. That's who I am, and each and every one of us have their own scars and their own, injuries and so on and so forth, that there is really no need to feel bad about them. This is who you are, and right now you're here, and it's important to know where you're coming from. It's important to know. And we'll see exactly why, but it's more important in which direction you're heading. And it's okay, that's what it is. That's what it is. And it's very interesting to pay attention to this process, we call it, when you're going to, let's say, counseling or something like this. Here, our psychologists, how psychologists are in training. What is the first thing, or social worker, we have a whole bunch of them here. What is the first thing that you do when you meet one of your clients? What is it you do? Come on, speak up, take the mask off your face. Right?
Build rapport.
You do a what?
Build rapport.
You build, okay, call it like this. I call it, let's be a little bit more specific. We call it social, cultural social. You do his history. You take down his history. His social history. What happened? Who are you? And it's important to know, how old are you? Were you a full term? You're not a full term? How many people in your family? Your parents were alive? When did they die? All this is a part of your own makeup. Right? Your social intake, whatever it is that you do. So you really, in a way, need to create a certain map of his past in order to be able to help him in the present. And our present is really a straightforward derivative of the decisions that we made in the past. That's why it's very important to understand what are the values, what are the obstacles, what is going on in this person's life, in this individual person that brought him into this place in the present, to know where we're starting from. It's very important. On the other hand, of course, we cannot forget that the past, with all its great treasures that hold in the past, whether they are revealed, or whether they're hidden treasures, or whether events, and so on and so forth, could also be a source for many obstacles and barriers, and to sensation the feeling of being stuck in life, because you are stuck in your past. You are handcuffed, you're imprisoned, you're tied, you're bound to the ropes of your past, to the handcuffs of the past, and therefore, if it's so, you basically don't have you live in the past. There's no present. You're stuck in the past, and therefore there's no future. How are you going to create a future if you're stuck in the past? And it's something that we always do. I remember there was a song of Bruce Springsteen. It's called, from the album Born in the USA. It's before you guys were born. When Born in the USA wasn't a bad thing. And one of the name of the song is Glory Days. It talks about people getting together. They always talk about their glory days. And it's quite pathetic. Because there's no future. They present stinks, so they also talk about the past. So the weight of your past, with all your sins, with all your regrets, with all your bad things that you do, and so on and so forth, really could become a burden on you, to the point that you can really move and really influence who are you and who you would be, to prevent you to becoming anything. And we need to understand that. So exactly in this case, all of a sudden comes the first part of the pasuk. And therefore, he tells us, Motzayim lemasayim. In other words, the motzah, your starting point, is basically determined by your journeys, according to the journey. Your future journey is really dependent on your starting point, where you are. In other words, in the here and the now. And that's why I said to you, where are you heading? What's your direction? And if we use other words, today, right now, is the starting point of tomorrow. And that's why it's important to get in touch with today, to realize the past, but to get in touch with your today, so you'll have a chance to have a tomorrow. There would not be a repetition of the day. It's like this movie, Groundhog Day, and the guy is stuck into a loop, every day is the same. And as crazy as this movie is, it's quite of a philosophical movie, but there are many people who are stuck in the same routine over and over again. It's like this endless, loop that they're in, that they can't break away from. So my future is determined on my movement today, because in any given moment, every given moment, I could see myself as a free person who is able to choose his future, is able to choose his path, and to open a new page. This is, Rabotai, a concept that was introduced to the world not by some guru in an ashram in who knows where, downtown India, or by Confucius that ate too many fortune cookies. It was introduced to us by the concept of teshuvah. The ability to create teshuvah, to become in peace with yourself. I did this, I acknowledge, I'm not trying to hide everything. I put everything on the table, I did this, and I regret it, and I'm aware of what I did. And now I decided to drop it, I'm opening a new page. Being able to make tshuva by Judaism, introducing by the Torah, introducing us the concept of tshuva, it is the practicum of or actually the execution of freedom. I am free, I can do these things. And people don't understand what freedom is, and believe it or not, which I told you a million times, people don't want to be free. I could really calculate my journey. That's why I need a starting point. Like navigation, if you will navigate, use a map, topographic map, whether it's in a trip or you go hiking or in the army, you need to know where you're coming from, not to be able to get lost. Otherwise you get lost. So, I need to get in touch with and in tune with my ambitions and so on and so forth, because understanding that my ambitions could really shape the way I make decisions in life. If you have no ambition, you're going to probably make very poor decisions in life. That's why I said to you, for example, that if you choose a spouse that doesn't want to do anything, that just want to stay home and be a stay-home mom by choice, not because it's a value for them, because they don't want to choose anything, that person is going to make a very bad mistake. So before you get engaged in such relationship, make sure you break it. Don't even get in there. Those people are going to make bad choices. And my choices, and my ambitions could really become like a life vest for me, some kind of a rope that I'm holding into to be able to pull myself right through in order to connect my past with my present, and more importantly, to connect my present to the future. As we all know, "Da me'ayin bata ule'an ata holech ulifnei mi ata atid letid din v'cheshbon." That's exactly what it says in Pirkei Avot. This attitude really could remind the second, brings to mind the second stage of personal coaching. When you do personal coaching, is building a vision or futuristic vision that really be able to dictate your decisions and your goals and your direction in life. But it has to be done today. That's what you try to achieve in therapy. What is the goal of this therapy? You have a problem, let's fix it. People don't want to do so, and then they're going to say, well, it's my pension, well, it's my this, but you're suffering in your job, and you're suffering in this place, and you're suffering in here. Well, you know what happened to many Jews like this in Europe during World War II? They couldn't leave, and they were stuck, and they were gone. There was no ambition. You can make it. Even if there's no Holocaust and there's no war. In the battle of life, you're not going to make it if you're not able to do so. Understanding that it has to be today. Now, let me just clear my nose for a second, guys. Excuse me. We had, by the way, recently, we had the fast of the 17th of Tammuz. Right? And that's what starts the days of Bein HaMetzarim, those 3 weeks that we have, the days that we have the mourning habits and so on and so forth, of the destruction of the temple. And one among the 5 reasons that we said that Chachamim counted for the fast of Yud Zayin B'Tammuz, it's something very interesting. The reason is because at that day, they stopped bringing Korban Tamid. The offering, which was brought in Bet HaMikdash twice a day, stopped. That day was the last day they did so. And of course we need to understand why Dafka Korban Tamid. I mean, there were many korbanot, many sacrifices that they did in Bet HaMikdash. Why specifically that daily sacrifice that they had to bring? I mean, we know that the siege on Jerusalem took basically 3 years. It was over a period of 3 years. And in Yud Zayin and Tammuz, they were able to break the wall and penetrate the city, and eventually, so on and so forth, to destroy Bet HaMikdash. So when we know that for a long period of time, there was no korban brought in Bet HaMikdash. The Gemara tells us the Jews used to bring a basket of money down the wall to the Romans. With gold coins, the Romans used to put a goat, and they used to bring it up, or a sheep or whatever, used to bring it up, and used to bring the korban until one day the Romans, instead of a baby sheep, they put a lamb, they put there a pig, and that was the end of it. So what's so important? What's so important for that? So why Korban Tamid had such a special treatment that that's what it is, and the reason is because it's the only korban that was brought every single day. And that was the korban, that was the sacrifice in which indicated the ability to bring the rest of the korbanot. You couldn't bring another korban until you bring korban tamid. Korban tamid was the first korban. After that, whatever needs to be done, needs to be done. But korban tamid comes first. And that comes to teach us a very fundamental and important part in the lives of a person, the idea that every person is appropriate for him to start the day with something that is constant, something that he does kavua every single day. And by the way, the Shulchan Aruch builds the day like this after shul, sit down and learn. Kovea itim la Torah. Immediately after that, go to learn. Don't go to work, go to learn first of all. So why is that? Because the bracha in them is that routine and persistence that comes all the time. You can't get a bracha for something that comes one day here, one day there. You want to have bracha in something? I'm not talking about money, I'm talking about bracha. Bracha comes from routine and dedication, something that you keep on doing time and time again. Ability to persevere. You want to be successful? You got to persevere. You quit, you're a quitter. You're going to continue, one day you're going to reach where you're going to reach. It's not a problem. It doesn't make a difference what age you are. You'll be able to do so. I'm sure all of you watched the movie Warrior, right? Anybody watch the movie Warrior? Okay, so you just got homework to do. You know. And this is the koach, this is the ability that able to guard us and give us stability and order in life. We can't live in absolute chaos. We need some stability and order in life in order to succeed. If you want chaotic, go to drugs. To each and every one of us, there is the need to get up in the morning and to know where the day will take you. What is the plan for the day? And there is also a calming effect in the idea that you don't need to break your head and to say, okay, let me see what I'm going to be doing today. And maybe that's also what we needed to do here during the time of Corona, right? You knew you can't go anywhere, so calm down a little bit. That stability that we're talking about, that's what Korban Tamid brings. But it is not enough. It's not enough because there is a great concern that doing something constantly, all the time, is going to bring about a feeling in you that you're missing something. So that's why you need that little flip from time to time, and so on and so forth. A person is going to sanctify this routineness, and is going to afraid that any kind of renewal or new things. And that lack of ability to do renewal would affect your ability to do what? To adapt. And if you can adapt, you fall. So you need a combination of both. You need something to stay constant and some things to keep on moving all the time. And almost like your spine, that it's like this, and your blood that flows around your body. You need a balance of things. And that's why Korban Tamid comes to tell us, and it comes to tell us something else. That together with perseverance, we have to combine it with renewal, with something new. And that is, that idea is planted in understanding the purpose of every Korban, which is something that it's very difficult for us to relate to today because there's no Korbanot. And in the time of Bet HaMikdash, the Korban symbolizes a renewal relationship between man and God. Because every day we are different. And every day we need to renew our vows with God. And every day we say, Ve'erastichli, it's like we're marrying God again. Which is a tremendous, wonderful thing to understand. Korban, we always say, Korban is Meshon Kirva. Closeness, not sacrifice, closeness. And that is the end of an internal process that a person bring himself about to stability. It takes away from his stability to the renewal in order to do what? To come closer to somebody else. If I am not willing to change and I demand you to change, we have a failure of a relationship. I'm willing to give for my stability to change according to you, and you should do the same thing, and that's we having a healthy relationship, and that's something good with you with relationship to God, and that's something that's good with you with the relationship with your wife and your husband and so on and so forth, with everybody else. Our problem is, look at how we did. We refused to adapt to the new situation of, and thank God all of you are wearing masks, you're keeping social distancing. It's really, Baruch Hashem for you guys, you're doing like this. However, there are people who refuse to do so, and they thought that they are showing the world how dedicated they are to God, that they opened the shuls even when they was not allowed to do it, and that is wrong. That shows that there are very small people who are not willing to adapt, and they sometimes face more of a danger to the well-being of people than the actual virus, and I'm willing to tell you that. There's not a problem. If somebody doesn't like it, they can drink cold water, they can stop listening to me right now, but that's the truth. That's the truth. I'm very upset when I hear the people say, oh, we have to go back to shul, we have to go. When you were in shul, all you want to do is to finish early and get whatever out of you. Quick, let's finish. So I don't understand you. That's what it is. Korban Tamid really comes to express those two elements essential elements in our nefesh, in our soul. Dedication, perseverance, and renewal. And remember those terms all the time. You need to make sure to do so. You need to have something that you could always fall back to, and then renewal things. That's not a problem, Rabotai, to change a job. Yes, you should have a job, as long as you have money to do so. But if you feel that you can't do this anymore, so change your job. What's the problem? Let's say, for example, I don't know, you're an accountant, okay? And the accounting job gives you money. So Baruch Hashem, but he says, I can't do this anymore. I want to become a, yoga instructor. That I can't do this. Okay, so fine. So continue bringing the money home, and then renew yourself into that. There's not a problem. But you're going to tell me, but what happened with my pension? And what happened with this? And what happened with this? And my vacation days? And I invested so much. So just write yourself off, and that's it. That's the end of the day. Not a problem. You need a combination of both. That's why it's very important to mark and to notice that dismissal and lack of ability on our behalf to bring Korban Tamid anymore, because not being able to bring Korban Tamid, that's what brought us closer and really hastened the destruction of the temple. When you are bored with your life, when you are not willing to take an initiative, and you're willing to get handouts all the time, because you don't want to change your ways, you don't want to examine anything else, you get chaos. And I don't think that it was accidental that we got all those demonstrations, which was a disgrace in terms of the way they were executed, with the looting and the burning and so on and so forth, specifically in this time that we were at, because people reach a level of boredom. That killing of that man was wrong, but that was wrong too. And that came because of boredom. Because being stuck in your ways and not willing to think about something new. In all parts. Parts of the people, parts of the government, parts of everybody. We have a constitution which is our backbone, and we need to be able to adapt and to change situation. Otherwise, it's the end of it. It's very simple. And when this stability is being disturbed and it's broken, whether it's a personal or societal, then there is a whacking, a turning, and then the powers of chaos emerge up to the surface. And that's exactly what we experienced here. And those powers of chaos, regardless of what people think, would prevent even the will to rejuvenate and of renewal. And then you go deeper into the mud, into chaos, into disarray, and that's what we all experiencing. And the same thing when we dealt with the coronavirus, right? We had a little turmoil, and we weren't so clear and sure about the future, what's going to be in the future, and really it affects our ability to deal with things that we dealt before, and it makes things very, very difficult to renewal, to adapt, to change things. Those who are able to do so. Most people are not, and you could see at the level that we are. And it's not only in America, it's all over the world. You can't really, for example, plan a vacation or weddings and so on and so forth, when it's such a chaos, especially when economic is bad. Those who are able to do so say, okay, so let's adapt to the situation. So instead of having a wedding of 500 people, we're going to have a wedding of 20 people. Is it about the number of people, or is it about getting married? So those who are able to do so, well, they're heading into a good direction. So the same thing in shuls. If we had 500 people in a shul, and now people, for whatever reasons, don't want to come to the shul, are you going to cry wolves that you can't have it anymore? Let's adapt to the situation. Let's do something that is different. Otherwise, you're going to fail. So, and this is the significance of Yud Zayin B'Tammuz during those 3 weeks that calls us, it gives us an atmosphere and a chance to fix things, to really go back. So we don't listen to music, we don't go traveling, we don't do all these things. It's not a collapse inside like a souffle, but rather it is a withdrawal into the pack, inside of you, to go back to basic. To let's try to think about what needs to be done, how we're fixing the situation so we won't go back to it again. Let's go back to basic, what's important. Let's define what's important to us. Let's go back to what we know is what Korban Tamid symbolizes, which is renewal and perseverance. To bring more stability in our life would really come from having a complete bitachon and trust in our relationship with God through prayer and so on and so forth, to really adopt a different perspective of life, to see the good things of life, an ability, a lens that sees the good in things, not the bad in things, that finds the good in people that exists all around us, to bring it about and to expose ourselves to it in order to be able to renew in this light of love and caring and so on and so forth, that would help us bring the Beit HaMikdash, that will help us fix the world. Now, Parashat Masay really deals with the journeys of Bnei Israel, from coming up from Mitzrayim until they reach the place that's called Yarden Yericho, before they enter the land. Those journeys, as the Torah tells us, comes to teach us about, as we said, about the journeys of the person in his life, through his life. And that's what we said before. These are Masayim lemotzayim. The person comes out from his starting point in his life, in his own life, and he goes different places in life. He reaches a place, it's called Charada. Charada means anxiety. And then he reaches a place, it's called Mitka, sweetness. And so he knows that these are journeys that you're going to go through life, and how you're going to deal with this. That there's a place that's going to fill you up to anxiety, and so there's going to be a station in your life that you're going to be very fearful, full of anxiety. But you should know also that there is a place later on in your life, there's a place that's going to call sweetness, mitka, sweet. So therefore that gives you the ability to understand that it's not forever. There's ability to change, and gives you the koach, the force to elevate yourself, to deal with situation. And to prepare, even though things are sweet now, to prepare yourself that things would not be so sweet. And then there is a place, it's called Etzion Gaver. A place that a person becomes like a gever, like a man. Lehatzim becomes a bigger man. And on and on. These are all stations, and the stations are 42 stations, 42 places in which they journey into the desert. So Chazal tells us that those journeys represented or against or symbolizes the name, or we call it Membet, the name of 42, God's name of 42 letters. And that name of 42 was really revealed to us by Rabbi Nuchonia ben Hekanah, that was also wrote the Sefer HaBa'ir, that really was davening when he entered Bet HaMidrash, And the way he was out, he used to make a small tefillah. And the tefillah was, Yehi Ratzon Milfanecha Hashem Elokai. You should be, your will in front of you, God, my God, that Shelo Yera Davar Kala Yadi, that I won't be wrong, and I should not stumble in the force of halacha, and my friends should be happy with me, and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth. In other words, this tefillah comes to protect the person who is learning not to stumble in halacha, and that his friends were not going to stumble because of halacha that comes out of him. When he says something that is inappropriate, his friend will say, listen, it's not correct what you were saying. And that really symbolizes the tremendous quality that Rabbi Nuchoniah ben Hakana had. Rabbi Nuchoniah also, of course, established the tefillah of Ana Bekoach, that the initials of that tefillah is the Shem Membet. And the name, the Shem Membet, really is ability, and the way they used it was really to be able to elevate the Kedusha and to bring it back to its root. Don't forget, the root in heaven is reverse, right? Everything is reversed. So elevate it to the shorish, bring it back to its source. In other words, to take things and elevate them to make them holy. And so were the 42 journeys of Am Yisrael, was to really elevate the holy sparks which were left in the desert. And the desert represents a place that there are snakes and scorpions and so on and so forth. In other words, forces of chaos, of danger. And we take those holy sparks and we elevate them like this, the forces of Tum'ah, the forces of evil in the world. And that's why there were places in the desert that they stayed there for a long time. And there were places in the desert that they stayed there for a little time. All dependent on what they needed to do and what they needed to fix. And so is a person. A person in the world needs to be able to look into the reality in which he's alive, to see how everything physical or even spiritual could really does really have a connection to its root, and everything in the world, physical, without a doubt spiritual, is connected in one way or another to God, to Ribono Shel Olam. And that's what the Torah told us, Vayichtov Moshe et Motzaehem leMasayhem al pi Hashem. Their journeys and their starting point according to God. In other words, Lifnei Hashem, to whatever God said. And it says, Ve'ele Masayhem leMotzaehem. So the first part of the pasuk tells me the destiny, and the other one is the goal. To go from your starting point to the end point to your journey. And the second one, which is Masayhem leMotzaehem, really represents the avodah of the Jew needs to do down here. So it's where you should be, and this is where you are, and to bring yourself from where you are to the place you should be, to be able to bring yourself from the asiyah of this world, to elevate it into a level of your direct connection of the spirit to the spiritual world. Because we know that we live in a dual world, the physical world, which our body and the soul are here, and our neshama is connected to that there would not be a dissonance, there's not going to be a gap between where we should be and where we are, to bring everything to its root. And that's the essence of mitzvah, of averot that we do karet. It's so severe, it's so out of place that you get completely disconnected from your root up there, and basically you're lost in this world. And that's what it is. So we need to be able to create this motion, this progress, this stability in our life, but with the ability to adapt and the willingness and the understanding that we are on a constant move all the time, and wanting to have the same old, going back to what it was is a wrong thing to do. You are on a journey. Things are always changing. And you came here to this world on your own term, on your own pace. And you should continue living in this world according to your own pace and according to your own needs. And if somebody gets married at 20 and the other one gets married at 30, there's not a blessing and it's not a curse. Each one to its own. Everything at its own time. Be'ito ubizmano. On its time and on the appropriate. Be'ito is, for example, we say this baracha, we wish a person, שתזכה להכניסו לברית של אברהם אבינו, to a father, they had a baby boy. Before the brit, we say, when we see him, he says that you should marry to have your son be'ito, which is the 8th day, ubizmano, and on the right time for the baby as well. This should be together. So be'ito ubizmano, because that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu told us. Be'ita achishena. When it's the right time, I will hasten things. Until then, you got to keep on moving in the movement of the universe, in the movement that God had given us. Don't push things. Don't hold the things. Go with things. Adapt. But you need to create stability. Stability comes from one place for us without a doubt. Kviut. Kviut, it says, ba Torah. Kovea itim la Torah. So all of a sudden, that concept takes a totally different meaning. Likvoa itim la Torah is not asking a permission from your wife to come here. Likvoa itim la Torah is what's going to provide you with the backbone to build and to be able to change things, to adapt things, to create a healthy relationship at home and a better life to you altogether. It all depends on that. That is why the first question they ask you when you go to Shamayim, Kavata itim la Torah. Did you create a harmony in your life by creating a certain backbone that everything runs around it? Did you? Good, so now we can go on to the next question. You didn't, there's nothing to talk about. Everything is a chaos. We can't operate like that. That movement that really nourishes from the past, from the roots of the past, in order to create a present that's going to give birth to a future of really coming to terms and really utilizing all the powers that are embedded in us is what we call the movement of life. So guys, yalla, it's time to go. Let's roll. Let's create this motion. Let's make sure that other people join us in Yeshiva. Bring people over. That's going to be their stability. We need to build this together. In times of uncertainty like that, this is the time for us to gather and around something that is eternal. And that is the Torah. So again, this shiur is Le'ilui Nishmat, my grandfather, my wonderful grandfather, Avraham ben Mazal Tov. May his soul rest in peace, and he should have an aliyah. And I wish that we'll be able to complete our journey, and that the journey is going to be a wonderful journey. And we shall all reach our old age with grace, with respect, with simchat chayim, with joy of life, until the last breath, as just did my grandfather when he passed away. I told you this before, my grandfather's first name was Avraham also. So before he died, he told my aunt, he says to her, he opened his eyes, he asked her to have Mentos, so he said a bracha, he put the Mentos, she put the Mentos in his mouth. He finished that, closed his eyes, he opens his eyes again, he says, V'Avraham zaken ba bayamim, and Avraham is an old man. V'Hashem berach et Avraham bakol, and God bless Avraham with everything. And he died. To be able to reach your death in such a way, I can only tell you this, he died in old age, like 94. I wish it on all of us. But without a doubt, I wish of everybody to live long life, happy life, meaningful life. And Bezrat Hashem, we should be zoche to come out of this time triumphantly, together, united, and nireh b'binyan Mashiach tzidkenu. Amen. Shabbat shalom.
Amen.